Hello, Christine. How are you?
I am well, and you?
I'm well. I am so delighted to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Me as well.
I look forward to the day that we can meet in person in our sweet little city.
Uh, yeah, a big shout out for that.
Hey, someday. But for now, I am just delighted to connect with you because I have followed you on Instagram for a little while and have just seen the amazing work that you are doing in your business and the way that you are representing and the way that you're the mama to your sweet little boys, and you're doing a lot of great things. And I feel like so often, as I'll put us women in a category, we feel like, I've heard this from so many, where you feel like maybe what you're doing, you like wonder what it's all about, right? You like are like, I'm putting all this out there. It's a lot of work running a business. It's a lot of work being a mom and all the things that come with it. And I just love being able to share stories of people who are just showing up. They're just
Mm,
showing up. And
yeah.
that's what I feel like I've seen from you. And I'm just so excited to hear the background of your story and where you've come from to shine a light to my listeners who maybe haven't been able to stumble across your beautiful business yet.
Sounds good.
So I would love to hear your background. Tell me about where you've come from and how you've gotten started and what led you to where you are today.
Okay, well, I did grow up in Saskatoon. I have an ed degree, so I was teaching for a few years. My teaching areas are home ec and Native studies, and yeah, I was able to teach for a few years, and then I was a stay-at-home mama. So I was fortunate to be able to stay home with my boys for about 5 years. And then the time came that I had to start going back to work, but I wasn't ready to jump in full time. Um, and I just wasn't ready to go back to teaching. There's a lot of planning, that goes along with that. And I really wanted to take, I guess, some baby steps into it. So I never had a desire to start a business. It was just one of those things that I feel like a lot of other women find themselves in, is just sort of this pivot in life, and you just have to go with your heart. And I knew that there was a lack of Indigenous baby and kids clothing out there, just from shopping for my own boys. I remember I wanted to sew them some bibs, but going into the local fabric stores, I just asked, like, do you have any Indigenous themed prints? And they were like, oh, no, we don't. We have like arrows. And, that was really what was out there at the time. And that was like 8, 9 years ago. And so, I had that always in the back of my mind of, one day I would love to see more of, that representation for little ones. And then, as I was thinking about what to do, I started doing some research, and I found that there was no such thing within Western Canada. There had been others doing adult and youth clothing, but there was nothing for baby and kids. So it was sort of that, aha, this is the direction that I want to go.
I love that. I love when because that's often how it is in business, right? Regardless of, it's usually something's not there that I wished existed. And now I'm either going to do nothing about it or I'm going to do something about it, depending on one's personality.
Fully, yes.
I love that. So how then did you kind of decide, like, you have this cool idea, you know that it matters to you. What was your next step then in actually like turning that from out of letting it spill out of your brain and into the world?
Right? Oh my gosh. I'll say this. I think some people have this idea that, oh, when you start your business, that it's just the smooth road, you just dive in, and no, that's not the.
Imagine the opposite of any smooth road.
But I feel like key is consistency. Is, if this is something that you're supposed to do, you just little by little, you just keep taking that step, and you just keep taking that. And that's exactly what I had to do, because I had never started a business before. I did not know how to start a website, because I knew I wanted to do e-commerce at the time, thinking, okay, well, I can work when my kids are sleeping, when they're napping, that was sort of the plan, and just make this work. So that was sort of the first few steps, was getting a website up and running, and then starting to connect with suppliers. Like, I wanted to sew some stuff, but then I also wanted to have onesies and t-shirts for little ones that had some of their language on there. And so looking for suppliers and which products to use, like it was sort of this whole, just I guess a few months of researching and finding out all the things that I needed, and just, put it together to launch it.
That's amazing. Well, and it's all of those. And I think that's sort of ultimately the business strategy for all of eternity then, right? Like there's always these like, oh, now this has come up. So what are we going to do about this? And now this has come up. Like it's always this baby steps. But I know for myself, I am not what you would call a patient person. So you want it all done tomorrow, right?
Yes, understandable. Sure.
Totally. Well, and it's hard to sometimes see like the light at the end of the tunnel when you're in those first stages of baby steps, especially because, let's be honest, even if you own your own business, which we can be as passionate as we are about what we're doing, at the end of the day, a business means you're making money. If you're not making money, it's a hobby, right? Which is perfectly fine as well.
That's exactly it. It's really identifying. That's right. Like, what is what's that end goal for you? Is this something where you do have to bring in money because you have to pay for bills? You got to buy diapers. You got to, all this, have time for self-care. And, so you're right. Once you identify that, then I feel like that really helps you as you sort of set everything else in motion.
Absolutely. So once you started these baby steps and got yourself launched and you got your website up and you like slowly were like delving into the products you were going to carry and that kind of thing, how did you find you sort of, I guess, connected with others because that's what I always feel is sort of one of the pieces that's really essential in growing a business, right? Like you can't just sit behind your computer and hope for people to send orders in, right? Which is sometimes maybe I think what people think happens.
Totally. Oh, for sure. I think what had really helped me is I did a launch party, like a mini launch party with some close friends and family to sort of celebrate the occasion and get the word out. And then there was just a few other local media outlets that jumped on board and heard about it and really spread the word. So it was really a warm welcome from the get-go, which I'm so grateful for. And, just that marketing that just for any, entrepreneur or when you have a cause, when they help you get it out there, that's just one of the best ways you can support business, right? And so that really helped to make some connections in the community. And then I also sent out some emails. I knew there were some retailers that I wanted to partner up with, and Wanuskewin being one of them. And so I just sent out some emails to the managers and saying, hey, this is my business, this is what I'll offer, let me know if you'd want to collaborate. And within that first year, there was 10 partnerships that began.
Wow.
And just so neat to see that sometimes, you just have to ask because you never know what will come out of it.
Oh, I love that you said that. I have had so many conversations, more so even in this last year, maybe. I don't know if it's just because we've all had to kind of rethink pretty much everything in our whole entire lives in this past year, let alone trying to like run a business. But I've had this conversation so many times, and I've been guilty of this too, where there's times where I know that I need or want something in order to get to the next step in my business. But it's like there's this innate, like in the back of my head, this feeling that's just like, oh, it's okay. You can just do it yourself. Like, it's okay. You don't need to ask. You shouldn't ask for help. Where I've tried to not listen to that more and to go ahead and be like, yeah, I do need help. We all do. And just ask.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And it's amazing how when you do, because so often I think it's easy to assume that even our family and our friends, let's say, people who you maybe are talking about this to regularly or who know what it is that you do, it's easy for even them to not fully actually understand what they could do to help support you, or for people, unless you actually ask for it, to be like, you know what, sales are down, or I put an ask out recently and I was nervous to do it, but I put an ask out because I've started advertising on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was super nervous to put it out there but most people were like, I didn't even know that's something that needed to happen. And I was like, well, you don't actually make money doing this unless you have people that want to advertise to your listeners, right? Like podcasting is not a business. It's not a business unless you make it a business, you know? And I want to be able to keep sharing these beautiful stories, and I want to keep on showing up, and I want to do that, but it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. And in order for that to keep happening, people got to come on board, you know, and they don't know that unless you ask.
That's exactly it.
I love that you touched on that. So you got these cool partnerships. I love that you have your stuff out at Wanuskewin. That's such a great, like, you're totally right. And I mean, it's interesting from not being an Indigenous person to
Yeah.
you looking out for these types of things. I love that you were just seeing the need of what wasn't there and are like, hey, world, here I am. This needs to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
That's beautiful. And such a great message for your boys. Like to see
Yeah.
their mama, like just like I feel like that with my daughters too. It's like one of those things where I think as moms, you often have this like, oh, am I working too much? Am I not working enough? Am I, you know, like you just question all of your all of your decisions. Like, are my kids going to be in therapy when they're older? Because I haven't done my job, you know? Yeah, but they see it. They're watching you. And so often my kids will say stuff where I'm like, it's not even stuff we've really talked about, but stuff that they're just observing, where they'll be like, hey, mom, like you're working really hard this week or something. Like, how's work going for you? Where this actually started, like, they're old enough to just ask these questions now. And I'm like, okay, like they're really understanding that it's like, it's a lot to grow up and to adult.
Oh my goodness. 100%. And I feel like because my little ones were literally there, you know, from the get-go,
Yes.
you drop offs, you know, they were there with me in the vehicle, and you know, the excitement and the joy of they were helping to, you know, put some of the tags together, and just, you know, have them being a part of it as well, I felt was really important. And yes, of course, I mean, they can't be part of it all the time, and you know, sometimes as mom is like, oh, okay, I'll just do it myself. but definitely, you know, opportunities that I thought were just so important that they just weren't watching it, but they were also a part of it. So yeah, that made it extra special too.
That's amazing. So, where, as you put together the collections and the items that you choose to feature in your business, where does your inspiration come from? Like, where do you decide? Okay, this is a product we're going to sell versus no, we're not doing that. We're going to do this instead.
Mm, yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, you know, from the get go, it was just some of my favorite pieces about my culture. Some of the symbolism, and the colors, and like I said, some of the just words, you know, from the language. So I feel like because, you know, every culture is so rich and so deep, but you know, because I was Indigenous, I knew that there was so much in there that needed to be shared to the world. And just given, you know, our our difficult past with events here in our country, it just was so heartwarming to be able to share the culture in this way and have little ones right from the get-go be exposed to that. And you know, it's just, there was, yeah, that definitely was in the thought process of some of the designs. And then also customers have some of the best ideas, and it's so awesome to hear what they have to say, and when they, you know, can be a part of it. Like, I feel like for, you know, any entrepreneur, if you're able to include them in it, that's a very good thing, you know, to do, because it just makes it more of this village, you know, that you are doing this together.
Absolutely. That's really great. Well, yeah, I think that inspiration shows up. I find for myself, like there, not a day goes by where I'm either not doing something or going somewhere or reading something or seeing something where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, we
Yeah.
should do that. You know, like it's like this ongoing, there's like too many ideas, not enough hours.
Yeah, seriously. Oh,
Well, and the day that we are able to gather again, I love that you started out with a launch party. Like, you're speaking my language, girl. Like, this is exactly what this is what I live for. Being able to just being able to bring people together to those were some of the last events actually that I had prior to COVID were some small business launch parties. Where I can still just like feel that energy in the room. And it wasn't that there was like it wasn't a room of hundreds of people. This is like small groups. This is your close people. People were pre-launching some of their products for existing businesses and just wanted to be like, you know what? There doesn't need to be a reason to throw a party. We're just going to get together and I have a few new things I want to show you. And hey, I haven't seen you in a while. This would be a really great reason to come together. And I cannot even wait. Like, the
Right.
that are going to be thrown are going to be so epic.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes, girl. That's so,
Right.
yeah.
Oh man, I'm like, just like my brain's just like thinking right now, like, whoo, this is going to be good.
Yes. Oh my, some of us have been joking about just like look out because I'm going to hug like every single one of you. So like, if
Like,
you
you
don't,
might need to stay away. It's going to be aggressive. Yeah. Oh
yes.
my gosh, I love it. So, have you had certain things from like you talked about your culture and you talked about your past and you talked about things that you're wanting to just to bring a fresh feeling to the cultural pieces that you're able to bring forward so that these little babies get to start, not just babies, but the young people get to start in a world where there's positivity and um, positivity towards your culture and positivity towards how they get to show up in the world. And
Yeah.
so much has happened in the past. And in these last few years, as so many more things are coming to the surface and come and being spoken out loud about, not
Yeah.
that they've always been there, but that it's being spoken out loud about, and speaking from somebody who wants to learn more and know more and be better and be more understanding. I could cry just thinking about this because I think that the way that you're showing up is just so beautiful. Sorry, I'm
Mm.
like getting super emotional about this. And I was so
Hey.
excited about this conversation with you because I want to bring attention to places and to the hard corners, to the hard, dark corners that people don't want to talk about, that
Yeah.
can be, that where the light can get in so that we can actually have conversations and I can understand you and you can understand me and we can be better because of it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, you said it, like even, in this last year, there has just been a lot of tension all across the world, but just a lot more awareness, I think, for issues that have been going on for centuries. But
Mm.
it's like there's this voice that's always been there, but maybe now we have these social platforms that we can use, and it seems, and I'm hopeful that more and more people are listening,
Mhm.
and then developing healthy relationships, because that's the truth, that we're never going to fully all agree, but
Mhm.
I feel like some of these hard conversations, they have to happen. And that's another, I guess, message within my brand is developing these relationships for reconciliation. And
Mhm.
so one of the that I do that is create collaborations with people that are not Indigenous, because I feel like it's so important. It's just coming together and then sharing this with the rest of the world, showing that, hey, like we've done this, and we want to share this with you in hopes that you can be inspired by it as well, and continue on in your calls of reconciliation with those
Mhm.
around you.
I love that. I really love that. That's so beautiful. And I think you're right. Like, the point isn't even the point isn't even necessarily that people have to agree on certain things. It's not really the point. And I think sometimes that's where we get stuck in all areas of our life, right? Like, there's just like someone has to be right and somebody has to be wrong, and that's the only way that anybody can move forward when you're having a difficult conversation with anybody, right? And it's just not really the way that life works, human to
Right.
human, and being able to just be open to it and letting everyone live the way that they feel like they're showing up as their best selves. And
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, it's like one of those things, I think even within business and even within women in business, like there's so many different things that can come up where there's these thoughts of like, well, how can I best support you and what can we do? And it's almost just, someone told me this quote. I've shared this numerous times on the show because it just always keeps coming back to my life. Someone shared this with me decades ago, and it is like always in the back of my head of what somebody else thinks of you is none of your business.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
feel like you can just pertain that to so many different situations where, not that you don't, not that it's not okay to feel hurt or
Right.
like not that at all, but
Right.
it actually isn't my business what
Yeah.
somebody else thinks about me. And if I
Yeah.
can keep myself in that present moment of not getting caught up in that and can be my own person and live in the way that feels best. We all know when we're not feeling our best or living our best, or maybe done or said something that was either out of character or out of reaction or out of all those things, and know how to make it right.
Yes.
You know?
That is, yes. I feel like, I was talking to someone else the other day too, when we are saying like social media pros and cons, to everything. But, when you do have that platform, sometimes you can say something and it, it can be taken and, or like, and not, and a new meaning is brought out of it. It's like, no, no, that wasn't my intent. Or the other thing is where some women that I've chatted with say like, I'm scared to post certain things because of the reaction that would happen. And understandably, like, I mean, there are, let's be honest, they're just, no matter what. And I've encountered this as well when I, post about certain topics, say, for an example, residential schools, and you'll have certain rude comments that'll come back to you. And I just had to, you have to put those healthy boundaries in as well.
Mhm.
Because it's like, there's one thing if you're both wanting to show up and have this conversation and gain some understanding and listening, but it's another thing if it's just, your heads are gonna just keep butting, and it's like, you know what, this isn't healthy for either one of us. The
Totally.
goal is to reconcile, like a healthy understanding and relationship.
Yes.
um so yeah, setting healthy boundaries, I feel, is that's another big thing that's
Oh,
important.
it is whole nother episode. In fact, I did one a few episodes ago that was about boundaries, and that's exactly it. Cause I think yeah, like it's not about necessarily seeing eye to eye, but that doesn't ever change the fact that every single conversation can still be respectful.
For
That's the
sure.
part that I have like really struggled with in just, I mean, just being an adult in general,
Yeah.
when conversations, and it doesn't matter what the topic is. And obviously a lot of topics there's a lot of different sides and opinions about things, and that's totally okay. But it's when it's just not getting respectful. And I think this is what you talk about in our family a lot with our kids, with our girls, whom when they're not getting along or they're like just having a day with each other, just
Yeah.
they're not out to get you. And I have to
Yeah.
remind myself of that too. Like I feel like that's like one of the pieces where we allow ourselves to be so reactive often,
Mm,
where that's something that I would say maybe even especially in the last like 2 years has been something that for myself, I have really tried to work harder on and to be better on, is unless the house is actually burning down, it
yeah.
doesn't actually need to be a fire, like
Right.
so many things could just be taken less. And it's okay to have feelings about these things, but it's our reactions to them that just so often get in the way of being able to have these respectful conversations and these pieces, because we tell ourselves a lot of stories in our heads that are just coming from our own selves, which we all do, right?
Fully. Yes. Yes.
That could
That's
be a
true.
whole nother episode right there. The stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I think if we can just have more of these conversations where it is coming from a place of just realizing that for the most part, I don't think there's most people that are living their lives hoping to intentionally like be out to get somebody else. That's not a healthy place to be coming from in life. And if you are doing that, that's just not really going to lead you to probably your greatest happiness either. And so if we can just be in our own way of feeling like we're showing up, and we get those feelings in the pits of our stomach when we know that we're probably not in the right side of the path and need to probably check ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. So what would you say, like in regards to like representation for listeners that are listening today and are feeling like no matter what their background is, like that they're wanting to show up, they're wanting to be heard, and they're seeing someone strong like yourself who is like taken the choice of you're choosing to step out of the box, we'll call it, and you're putting yourself out there, even if you're getting negative feedback, and even if things might turn controversial, you're showing up and you're putting your best self out there and proudly sharing what your truth is. What would you share with somebody who's hesitant about what might happen, what feedback might come back,
Wow. Yeah. Oh man, that's such a good question. I mean, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is, once we get to the end of our time here on earth, we don't want to ask ourselves like, oh man, why didn't I? Why didn't I just, so I guess, it's like, why not?
Right.
Why not? No, you try it. And if it fully doesn't work out, there's still some kind of lesson. I always feel like there's always something to be learned.
Yes.
And sure, it's intimidating and scary and all of those feelings, but why not? And and if you have questions or you're not sure, it's, try and connect with a mentor or a support group that can understand you, that will be able to support you. And whether that's just a listening ear or whether that's, say financial support, whatever it may be, I feel like you kind of said this before, is that no matter what journey we set out on, we need people to that's just the nature of it, not do anything by ourselves. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Oh, I love that. And it's sometimes so easy to lose track of that when like life gets busy and it's day to day and we're all getting a little antsy for life to feel a little bit more, we'll call it quote unquote normal. Again,
Yes.
it's easy to kind of lose sight of that when you're just in the throes of things. And let's be honest, like, especially for this last year, like life has, it either has felt like it's moving at warp speed or it's felt super blah,
Right.
it's just like every day feels like the same because there's just a different energy. I don't know. I can't even really describe why.
No, it's fully true. And many people have echoed those same sentiments, like just sort of this blah, like you're going through, you're coasting, you're surviving, whatever it is. But yeah, we can just feel it. Like it's our whole world. It's just so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it really does put into perspective. And I feel like so often it kind of comes back to like, I can feel for myself when I feel almost like out of alignment, like where you're doing day-to-day stuff. And it's not that you're not content or happy, but there's just this general sense of like, but what next? I think that's almost the thing for me where that I've struggled with the most in this last year is just having things to anticipate, even just like going on a holiday, or I don't know, like things that shouldn't be reasons to feel upset. Like it's not the end of the world, but
Right.
things where you're like, wow, like I'm realizing that my priorities are in a place of, I do love to travel. I do love to entertain in my home and have people over. And like when you realize those things, I think it's been hard. I haven't yet really found other things that fill my bucket as much as those things, which can't happen,
Right. Yeah, it's true. And I feel like that kind of, ties into, we kind of said before, just that self-care aspect of, yeah, when you're hustling and you're busy and we can forget to just stop. And that's one thing I've incorporated, because I knew my nature. I'm just very much a go-getter. And I feel like that stems back to even just like my upbringing, because, my mama was a single mama of 3 kids, and she was always working to provide for us. And so because I'm the oldest, I was often the one looking after my 2 brothers. So I had to take on this mom role at a very early age. And I, just dealing with some difficult challenges, and just some of the racism as well, just with being Indigenous. So there was some tough moments in there, but I feel like this drive to just keep surviving and to just keep going was maybe instilled in me at that time, because you just had to do what you had to do. And, as I got older, it was like, okay, nobody in my immediate family had gotten a degree before. And, when a teacher had brought it up to me, like, well, why don't you consider going to post-secondary? And it was like, what? Like, that was not something we did. I wasn't smart enough. Like, no way. And so, okay, finding out, like, sorry, I know this is kind of like taking a totally different trail.
This is exactly what I want to hear. This is beautiful.
You had asked, but I guess just that hustle, that just moving forward. And I feel like, once I had found out, okay, maybe I can go to university. Maybe I can learn this stuff. And I guess, time back even to the other question you asked, with somebody that's afraid, is sometimes we don't even know what we're capable of until we step out and we do it. And so for me to step into university, it was scary. I mean, this big campus, all of these people, and, going to find all these classes, and oh my goodness, it was so overwhelming. But again, just that little by little, and having people around me that were saying, like, you can do this, you can do this. And so that can tie into I feel like any area in life, when you are at that moment stepping out, can I do this? And so I feel, as I got older and, had these little ones, and back at this place of, okay, what do I do now? Because I wasn't quite ready to do full-time work, but something where I could still be this mama. And was I scared? 100%. But again, little by little, have these supports around me, like, what, you can do this. You can step out. I don't know it all, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to try. So that same drive, I feel like, propelled me all the way through. But having said that, I knew I had to stop and take breaks, because which we all know eventually happens is we burn out. And had I been burnt out before? Yes. And I did not want to repeat that. We definitely are not our best. It's not good for us in any way. So throughout the year, a few times throughout the year, I will make sure that I take at least a week, maybe 2 off. And it doesn't have to be a trip. It might just be hanging out at home with the kiddos and, doing all the things that they enjoy. And just little, things throughout the week, even if it's going for a walk. I had started going to the gym a few years ago. I do not like running. I did not like exercise. It was like, I want my potato chips. Like, let me just sit on the couch and eat these potato chips.
I knew we'd be good friends. You're speaking my exact language.
Come on. I don't add that to my life, but I tell you what, it was one of the best things I could have done for myself. So I sort of hopefully answered your question, but sort of went on the little trail there with it, but hope that was helpful.
That's exactly what it is. And I think sometimes we let the voices in our head tell us that we need or should be doing certain things or shouldn't be doing certain things. And we just keep pushing forward. We don't actually pay attention to what our body really needs.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, maybe it needs a walk. Maybe it does just need the computer shut down for the afternoon. And again, what's the worst that's going to happen? I think there's so often, especially as entrepreneurs, I think it's easy for us to think that the world is just going to like crumble if we're not present, like, and that's actually maybe been the one thing that I've taken a lot out of this pandemic too, is like, hey, you know what? This is as close to the world shutting down and crumbling as any of us have ever experienced. And hey, guess what? We're still here. We're
Yes.
still here. You know,
Oh,
like
yes.
it's we're not holding up the whole world with our own two hands here. And I think that I know for myself, that's like sometimes you just think that everything's going to fall apart if we don't have our hand in it. And 9 times out of 10, that's actually not the case, but it's like what we're telling ourselves. We have to actually try it to know if it's going to happen.
Come on. That's exactly it. And you said that before, like creating those stories in our head, right? It's, yeah, you're right. But however, it's like, okay, but you know, if I communicate, I find that's another important thing. You know, when I communicate to my customers, hey, you know what, just so you know, at this time, I will be, you know, having time off. So, you know, if they have any questions, if they have any, you know, whatever, they know ahead of time so that it's not like all of a sudden, boom, okay, she's gone. Where did she go? Like, you know, you don't have to tell them everything you're doing, but just, I feel like it's important. Just give them a heads up. I'm taking some time off. And I feel like most people are so understanding of that, like that you inform them, you communicate, like, okay, cool, we'll catch you later, you know?
Totally. And I think that's almost this like, I don't know where that comes, like, it's like there used to be this sort of like society norm of, well, unless you're working 24/7, you actually
Oh,
aren't an entrepreneur or you aren't a business owner. You have to just be able to be available 24/7. And I feel like some people wear that as a badge of honor. And
mm,
that's like, that's an expectation that is just not sustainable for a human being. I recognize some people have higher capacities than others, and that's like a whole nother thing, but it's not sustainable. And I don't think we're doing our business or our personal lives any favors by just keeping on going. Nothing makes me happier. This has happened to me a few times, even at like a Starbucks drive-through. I can't remember when this was, years ago, where I drove through, I think it was a family day or something. Like I can't remember when it was, but
yeah, yeah,
they had a sign up leading up to it being like, we are giving our team time with their families for an extra day. So we'll be closed these 2 days or something. And it was like posted in the drive through. It was like posted up in the store. And I was like, I literally want to keep coming back to this business now because this is the kind of business I want to get behind. You are
yeah,
taking care of your people.
100%. And I think you said it before there is that, you know, if we feel like we have to work 24/7, well, something else is going to suffer,
Yeah.
right? That's not, you said it, it's not sustainable. So I feel like for myself, I've said sort of there's three things that I, you know, try to focus on. You know, because otherwise I just get this picture that we're spinning all these plates and you keep adding more. Well, what happens? They eventually start falling, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, I've got my little ones, you know, I've got my business, and then I've got, what's my third one?
What else does one do in a day?
What else do I do? And maybe, you know what, I think that might be, I used to sing quite a bit, like just
Oh,
for fun. And that was something I fully enjoyed. But I get, no, the other thing was I had collaborated with a friend of mine, and she's another Métis mama who's also an entrepreneur. And our hope was to be able to inspire other Métis women to, you know, get into business or just, you know, step out of their comfort zone. So that was my third thing that I thought, okay, those are my focuses.
yep.
Can I, you know, take on another project or, you know, commit to something else? Short term, yes, but long term, I can't. Because again, something will start suffering. So
Well, and I think that's so important too. Like when I think sometimes, I think some people maybe, like I'm quite a planner, so I like to have things in place and like to know what's happening. But I know some
mm,
people find that kind of rigid. But for myself, I feel like it really helps me say, and I will call myself like a recovering yes woman, right? But
I
I
get that.
like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's been my battle for my whole entire life. And I'm sure it will continue for forever. But I will say that I have come great strides in actually, as soon as when you're clear about what those things are, like you're saying, okay, my kids, my business, and mentoring, or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be, whatever the
Yeah.
things are for somebody's life, every single thing that passes your plate has to, and someone said to me, it can't just be a yes, it needs to be a hell yes or a hard no.
Yes.
It's just like a, oh yes, no, not good enough. Like that goes to the no then, you know?
Because this is the other thing is if you are more of a driven person, you're likely going to give your all when it comes to whatever you're committed to. So, you give your all, well, again, okay, so maybe it's this project here, but you've got 5 other ones in the go. Well, this one's likely not going to be the very best. You're sort of just going to slap it together and here you go. Well, I don't know if that's,
Totally.
buddy. So
I completely agree. And I see that for myself all the time. And usually you have to you have to be burned a few times and a few things have to shatter and fall in order to realize that, oh, wait a second, back it up. I need to say no to a few things here.
yes. Yes, absolutely. And again, I feel that communication piece, most people are very understanding. Hey, look, you know what? I just have a lot on the go right now. Thanks for thinking of me, but now it's just not going to work. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know.
Oh, and don't you find when someone does that to you, like if you've reached out to somebody and that's their response, I feel like I have a level of respect then for them because you can tell that they are confidently mindful of their life. And that's somebody that I sure, you're like, oh man, that would have been really fun. Like disappointing that it isn't going to work out, but more like, wow, I really admire that you actually know your limits, your boundaries, and you're not taking something on. And then, like you said, giving it 40%. And it's actually not going to be a great maybe partnership anyways, because it probably should have been a no.
Fully. Yeah, that's exactly it. And you know what? I feel like at the end of the day, if something is supposed to happen in life, it will. So maybe it's not this, but maybe next month, or down the road. So
that's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, so I have to ask you a few of my regular speed questions that I ask all my guests because I love knowing the little details, which you've shared such lovely details about your life. I appreciate you opening up so vulnerably.
Oh, well, thank you for this conversation. I wish, I'm missing the social aspect. So, I wish I could do 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours.
Yeah, I know. I feel that's how I'm sitting here too. And I'm like, whoa, I could talk to you for hours. We'll do it again. Okay. So here is my first question for you. What book or ebook or whatever type of reading, what are you currently reading?
Okay. I'm not sure if you follow Jay Shetty on Instagram.
Yes, I do.
I love his positivity, his healthy, habits. And so I ended up getting his book, Think Like a Monk. Mm-hmm. And so far I'm loving it. Just, how he talks about framing that mindset of what we think about ourselves. And even what you're saying, the stories that we tell ourselves and just really giving steps on how to just have a more positive and healthy thought process going forward so it's good so far.
Okay. I love the recommendation. It's on my list and I have not read that book yet, but I find even just listening to his podcast, his voice is so relaxing. You just listen to it. I'm just hearing what he's talking about. I'm I don't know, maybe it's just his beautiful accent. Sounds so relaxing. It's therapeutic.
It is. And just, and it's not just this surface talk. He'll get into these deep conversations, these deep trenches sometimes, right? And just it's real. So many of us can relate to it. But then yet it's but here's the hope. And so that's what I'm reading.
Love it. I love it. Okay. Are you a coffee drinker? And what is your coffee order?
I am. You know what? I used to hate coffee, but until I became a mama,
it was more of an essential.
My BFF. But you know what? I still only drink 1 cup a day. In the morning usually, and I just put cream or milk in it.
Love it. Well, I went through I did a little detox of my eating and drinking habits in January of just let's clean things up. I'm feeling like I'm having headaches a lot, feeling low energy, not feeling great. And I cut coffee out completely.
Yeah.
Thought that it might've been my last days. It was horrific cutting it out from how I was feeling. I felt awful. I felt so gross cutting it out. And I was like you, 1 cup a day, sometimes 2, but
Yeah.
always like first thing in the morning. Like it
Yeah.
was like we're not drinking coffee throughout the day here. So I didn't really think it was a thing. I had such bad, crazy, violent headaches for days while I didn't have coffee that I have not yet reintroduced it. It's been months.
Wow. Good for you.
Been months. And the only thing I feel like I'm missing of it, like when I smell, like my husband will make coffee, and when I smell it, or I'll like go order something else somewhere that isn't coffee, but you're in a coffee place and you just
Yes.
smell it, and like love the taste of coffee. Like I love coffee. So I
Yeah.
miss that. But I've even tried having like a few cups, like throughout, I've had like an occasional little bit of decaf coffee, and it's an
Mm.
instant headache. Instant
Wow.
headache. And I was like, okay, this must be affecting me more than I ever realized for this to still be giving me a headache. So we've just called it, coffee and I have just parted ways,
Sure.
amicably parted ways.
Right. Relationship, right? Like the
I
status.
know. I had to say goodbye to my friend coffee. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, what would you say right now in your current life, the theme song of your life would be?
Oh, that's so tough. Oh my goodness, because I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan.
Oh,
I think life. I don't care how old I get. But Michael Jackson, the one song that I played over and over and over was "Heal the World." It's
mm,
sort of this having compassion for people and doing our part to make this a better world, not just for myself and my kiddos, but just for those all around me. So yeah, I feel like that one has stuck with me.
that's a good one. Can't go wrong with some MJ. Let's be
Oh,
honest.
come on. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier on that you loved potato chips, but if you could pick any junk food, what is your like go-to snack?
Okay, so yes, potato chips, 100%. Little like side thing. I was actually just telling this to a girlfriend the other day. I have like this like a nightstand like beside my bed, and I was what I have in there. She's like, "What?" I was like, "I have chips." Like I'm like, but the crazy thing is, I don't eat them every night. Like it's not one of those things where it's like, "Ooh, they're there." It's like I know they're there, so maybe that's why. But
It's like comforting that they're just sitting there.
they're just sitting there. It's like my little stash. And if I want to grab a few, they're right there. I don't have to go down to the pantry. I just reach up.
Oh my word. Like I couldn't even love that answer more. That is the best. I also love chips. Like it's like I've realized, and it's funny, like if we ever stay in a hotel or something and they have those like ice machines that make the
Oh,
perfect chipped ice, I literally can replace, I'm realizing for myself that like, yes, I love chips and I love the saltiness of them, but I'm realizing that it's almost more of a habitual, I like the idea of like arm,
oh,
like putting it
yeah.
in my mouth so I can like make my ice chips feel like I'm eating chips. Like it's like still something to do if you're
Yeah.
like watching TV or something, you're just like, I want to like be doing something that's
Yes.
not just watching. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've realized that, but do you want to know what my new favorite chip is that I stumbled upon as I was doing this like healthier eating and have I mean, we eat pretty healthy in our family, but I realized that I was saying yes. I was saying yes a little bit too often for the past year and allowing the pandemic to
Mm,
make me eat because I love eating.
yes.
And so found the veggie kale chips, which sound horrific to say that out loud because that wouldn't be my favorite thing. But Costco
Right.
has these big bags of Flourish kale chips, they're called. And they're just like a, they almost look like, they almost look like the Tostitos kind of like little scoop chips. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
like the nachos that look like scooped a little bit? They almost look like that, but they are paper thin. They are like so super thin. And it's like kale, Brussels sprouts, and chickpeas are the base, which all things considered, you're like, yeah, count me out. This sounds like, why would I want to eat this chip? They are so stinking addicting. I can't even get enough of them. I have to buy 2 bags when I'm at Costco. And I just eat a few at a time,
Yeah.
put a few here and there. I can't even. Like now when I'm thinking about eating chips, I think about them. Think about them.
Yeah.
Little veggie
Yeah.
chips. You know, you got to
Yeah.
try them. They're good.
I-
Maybe you'll start stashing those in your night table. You'll see.
Come on. Yes, I've got 2 doors, so 1 for each door.
Right? Exactly. And my kids like them too. That's the great part. Okay, so when was the last time that you really belly laughed about something hilarious, and what were you laughing about?
Okay, you know, some of the reels on Instagram are hilarious. Like, wow. And you think, you know, why am I laughing at this? And they're only like 15 to 30 seconds, but some of them are so funny. And I find, especially if I watch them, like at the end of the night, like kiddos are in bed, I'm all ready for bed, and I see them. Oh my goodness. Like, I sometimes wonder if they ever hear me laughing or if I'm gonna like wake them up. Oh yeah, that
Don't
is
you
where I
find though, like life hasn't felt like there's maybe been as much excitement in the last year just because stuff's been whatever? Things are funnier.
come on. It's true. Like this, like, oh, exactly. That's what it's the silliest thing, but seeing it, and then especially if they're laughing at themselves, like
Yes,
it's just, and the world, come on, like
it's
we all,
contagious.
right? Yeah.
I absolutely love it. My girls and I, for some reason, we just started subscribing to Disney Plus to try it out.
Yeah.
And America's Funniest Home Videos, the like old school videos are on. It's like a series. You can just watch all the episodes.
Yeah.
Why are they so funny? I don't know, but we are laughing our heads off, especially like I've said this on the show before. My guilty pleasure is wipeouts.
Oh,
Watching people wipe out, and I know that that sounds like I'm a horrible person. Wipeouts of any kind, and my children will attest to this. Like they've wiped out, bawling their eyes out. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm out. I can't. Like I am losing it. This is so funny. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. But this is funny. Yeah. Right? They're like, you're so mean. And then they'll like talk about it later on. They're like, yeah, no, you're right. That was hysterical. I'm fine now. Yeah.
yes. Oh man.
Hey, last question.
Okay.
Where are you most looking forward to traveling, near or far, once we don't have the limitations that have been
Oh, come
designed?
on. California a few times, and I absolutely love it. I love I mean the beaches, the weather. I don't know. There's just something about it, of just some of the, maybe the chill vibes in some of the places. And there's lots to explore. And I would love to be able to take my babies to Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
World, and my little guy was 18 months when I had been there, so he obviously doesn't remember.
Yeah.
You know, got like a lot of pictures and stuff of him, but now that they're older and into all things, you know, cars and whatever, that is definitely a goal of mine.
Oh, so good. You know what? Our family did Disneyland first years ago. And
Yeah.
then right before the pandemic hit, literally the week before everything shut down, we got out of like we came home from Disney World.
Yeah.
That was like our last trip or whatever of all places to be. But I would pick Disneyland over and over and over again. Like there's something that still just holds the magic for us. Like we loved our trip to World, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
Disneyland, there's just something about it that just has this extra special feel to it. And it's smaller and just feels, I don't know. It's like the
Yeah.
one we would choose to go back to over and over again if we could. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. No, exactly. It's just one day we will get back.
Someday. Yes, love it. Christine, thank you so much for being on the show today. I absolutely loved hearing more about your journey and your story. And I will tag you in the show notes so that everyone listening can come follow along and keep seeing what you're all up to, because I was going to mention, are great on your reels. You are showing up, and that is something that I'm like slowly diving into a little bit more, but you've been an inspiration to me because you show up and you just are yourself on it. And I love that.
So fun. So again, why not? Right? Why not?
Totally.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was great chatting with you.